studied a lot. It is about the science behind strategy, why cultural shifts are so tough to happen. Hello and good morning, good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, my party people. Welcome to my channel. I know you're new here because the channel is super new, but I know you're here to stay because you're eventually going to love what I have. Today, I'm going to be talking about a topic that I think has really changed my outlook towards life and in terms of how everybody should operate. As you can already tell, I'm going to be talking about game theory, but I'm also going to be talking about game theory in everyday life. And it's really going to change the ball game for you completely because it's something that I think I've studied and done a good amount of research of. Or if not, and if you're just eating your food or walking around your colony or around your area, you can just have this on as a podcast because I am telling you for sure that you're going to take something away from this video after you're done watching it. It's going to pretty much change your life and pretty much going to change how you see your daily interactions with people. You're going to think of it as math. Now, it really sounds cold and calculated, but that's life. That's life, really. Life is cold, life is calculated, and that's reality. And if you're not playing it how it should be played, then you're really lacking behind. Or maybe you're just staying average, and the only way for you to get out of the average rule, like the loop that everybody's generally stuck into, is when you have information like this handy. Now, again, this is not really manipulation, I'd say, but this is more about strategizing and it's the art of decision making. That's what game theory is about. I have a few notes here because the topic and the concept is pretty big. So, we're going to be seeing a lot of theories and a lot of games that you come across every day in your life. Before that, I would actually want to take names of all the books that I've read and referenced over a long period of time. So there's Evolution of Cooperation, the Thinking Strategy, the Art of Strategy, and a few research papers as well. So all of that information consolidated into this one video. There are a good amount of research papers and also a few like articles on Medium and Substack and stuff that I've read that really changed my perspective on life. Now, I am somebody who's always been super big when it comes to psychology. Human psychology books is the only probably thing that I love to read. And there actually came a point in my life, I am a yapper. There actually came a point in my life wherein I was so tired of psychology books that I was like, you know what, I'm not going to read it. But despite of that, I always keep finding myself applying all of the human psychological strategies that I have read over all of this period of time in my everyday interactions. And I'm telling you that the results and the crop that I've reaped so far, reaped, is that the right word? So far, they've been immense. They've been crazy. Let's dive straight into the game theory. I told you about all the books that I have referenced and the research papers that I've referenced. But what I'm really about to do is I'm fundamentally going to change your outlook on how you look at every single interaction that you're going to have after watching this video. You're going to strategize like you're breathing because you're going to identify the game that you're playing right there in that conversation or in that situation with that person, and you're gonna flip the cards and flip the table and leave. Before that, yeah, I wrote the quote down, and this quote is by John Van Neumann, who is the father of game theory, and he says that real life consists of bluffing, like tactics of deception, and asking yourself, what is what I'm doing right, or am I doing the right thing, or am I saying the right thing? It's all tactics. And that's what games are, and that's what life is about. More or less, John Van Neumann said this. And he's the father of game theory. So that guy was mad crazy, and he had ultimate understanding of the strategies of life, and he knew clearly the art of decision making, right? I would also like to highlight that the game theory is not all whimsy and based off of energy and manipulation. It is really a scientific study. It has been, and the science behind taking calculated decisions, sometimes quickly, sometimes when you take time and then you take the calculated decisions, sometimes in the heat of the moment. That's what game theory is about, right? So you can apply this in a lot of areas of your life. Welcome to the game theory. Okay, so let's dive straight into the first one. So we're going to talk about the Nash Equilibrium. I'm not sure if y'all have heard about it. The Nash Equilibrium is why all of us or majority of the crowd stays stuck. So how many times have you heard of a situation where you know that changing the strategy is the right decision to make, but you just don't do it? You will actually see it multiple times in your daily life when you're in a multiplayer game. For example, let's say you're in a strategy game, right? And everybody's winning so far, everybody's doing very well so far. There will come a point where people are going to be very adamant and they will refuse to change their strategies. They'll stick to their strategies, even though collectively everybody's going to benefit if people start changing strategies. You know, the game is going to get better. People are going to win bigger, but people just choose to stay comfortable and stay stuck on their original decision, something that was really working out for them. This happens a lot in your normal life as well. For example, if you're a couple, you're like probably a husband and wife, and you both have great jobs and you're living in a city and a mid-tier town, right? Now one of you, maybe the wife, is like super high flying and she wants to move to a bigger city where she can have better opportunities when it comes to her job, when it comes to her life, and she can win bigger roles and earn better. And she's an ambitious girl, so she really wants that, the city life. And then there is the husband, who is a pretty chill, laid out guy, and he likes going in places where there's nature and, you know, a remote place where he can really enjoy life. Now both of these decisions are really fine, and they're all good in their own places, right? There's nothing wrong with any of these opinions. But what really happens is these people, they look at the other person and they choose to stay put for the other person. So the wife doesn't make a move and the husband doesn't make a move. And what's really going to happen is over time, they're still going to be in the mid-tier city and nobody's going to win the situation. Basically, they're still going to be in the mid-tier city. The wife will see a lot of big opportunities come and pass by, big moves that she could have taken, but they'll just come and pass by. The guy will see amazing opportunities of shifting and moving and changing his life, but they'll come and pass by because both the parties decided to stay. The real dilemma here is that both the parties, they try to make the right decision, but they make it for the other party, and so it's like stagnant water, nobody moves. What's really important in general in life is to have good communication. Now this is straying into a separate topic, but yeah, in situations like this, communication is really important. But what I'm trying to highlight is that the entirety of the world, or the mass of the world, is really stuck in the Nash equilibrium because it's a comfortable place to stay, but that's not really the game you would want to play your entire life. How would it feel for you to know that you could have taken a small uncomfortable decision that would have completely changed the trajectory for you guys in ways that you cannot even imagine? For example, if the couple makes a move and moves to a bigger city, maybe the ambitions that the girl had, they start coming true and they start earning better, or the career trajectory completely changes. So you know what, they stay 6 months in that big city, and every 6 months they take a vacation to a remote location. That is a possibility because both the parties chose comfort for themselves as well as for the other person. They just stayed stuck for these 20 years, and now they're still at the same place. They're still sad. But what could have really gone right is that they would have understood. They should have understood that they're in the Nash equilibrium, and one uncomfortable move would have changed their entire life trajectory. Now, that's just something that everybody should be aware about. If you think that you're in Nash equilibrium, which most of us really are, what you really need to identify is how to get out of it. It's not that hard, honestly. Once you recognize your problem, that's halfway solved. If you know that you're stagnant, you just have to start making small moves, and those small moves are going to compound over time. This is where deals fall apart. Companies also experience this from time to time. Suppose, let's say, e-commerce companies, and they're competing with the same audience. Now both of them want to make the profit, but none of them is ready to change the strategy, so they're both stuck with the same strategy, even though they could mutually benefit from increasing the prices, competitive prices together. Let's straight up get into the game of life. In life, you're going to encounter a lot of games. You're going to encounter a lot of situations that you're in. You're going to have a lot of conversations, one on one, could be one versus group, could be group versus group. A lot of these situations, and once you realize that every single situation that you're in is essentially a variety or a type of game, you're you're setting yourself for success. So, okay, let's talk about the first one, which is the first difference that I think everybody should be knowing. And that's the difference between a zero sum game and a positive sum game. Let's first understand what really these things are. So, a zero sum game is basically it's like a binary game, which is where I lose if you win. It's my loss if you get the gain. If I get the gain, it's your loss. If I win, you lose. It's a zero sum game. One party has to win. It's honestly in the world of game and strategy, it's like a pie that is stuck. It's not getting baked, it's not expanding, it's not edible really. In life, we will encounter a lot of situations that'll feel like a zero sum game, wherein you will feel that if this person wins, I lose. If this person gets the gains, that's my loss. That is a zero sum game in life. Now, what's a positive sum game? A positive sum game in general is a game of collaboration wherein both the parties realize that collaboration is our way to win this situation, right? This would essentially mean this is a very non-binary game to play. This would essentially mean that if I win, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to lose. You can win too. And so let's do a win-win. Let's think and strategize and win together. Right? So that's a positive sum game, right? Where both the parties can benefit. And as I told you, the pie, which was stuck in the zero sum game, it sort of grows and everybody eats it. And the pie is super delicious because both parties are loving it, both parties are collaborating, and both parties are eating the pie, and they're all winning, right? Where do we go wrong in life when it comes to playing these games is when most parties start treating life like it's a zero sum game, whereas life is really a positive sum game. You in life you will never find yourself in a scenario truly, it might seem like it, but it's never ever truly that. You will think in a scenario that if the other person wins, I lose, but that's mostly never the case. Your life is a positive sum game and you should treat it like one. The moment you start treating your life like a zero sum game is where you will go wrong. Think of a situation which I think a lot of people look at this situation as a zero sum game, but it's actually really a positive sum game. You're in your office, okay, and you're competing with a colleague for a competitive position. Say that you're both on the same level and you're both fighting to get on the same level, right? How people are going to look at this is it's a zero sum game. If this person wins, I lose. And if I win, that person loses. But that's essentially not right in that scenario or in life as well. But in this scenario in particular, you guys are a team. You're a part of the same team. So it's not really a zero sum game. It is a positive sum game. If you kind of try to outshine the other person, keep information to yourself and not really share it with the other person, if you do not act like a team player, if you do not praise the other person when it is due and where it is due, and if you do not act like a team member, that's really gonna pull the both of you back. If you think that's only affecting the other person, then you're wrong. It's gonna pull the both of you back, and if the other person also does the same thing, it's gonna be bad for the entire team. So what's essentially gonna happen is if both of these parties they treat this as a zero sum game, the entire team performs badly. And so you know what, there could be a case where nobody gets to that position because the team performed badly, versus you look at this as a positive sum game. You keep acting like a team. The relative position that you're competing for is gonna come for you anyway, okay? So it's just about matter of time. But if you collaborate effectively, right, and if you collaborate how you're supposed to be collaborating, there could actually be a possibility that the both of you can get promoted, right? The image for the team is also gonna have a massive impact. If you're both coordinating and working together, the team is going to look better. What people I think they miss to realize is that life is really a long game and not like a short term game thing. Life is a long game and you should look at it as one and you should genuinely play it as one. So where people really lack is where they start seeing zero sum games. They start seeing life as a zero sum game, whereas life should be seen as a positive sum game. So look at yourself when you're in a situation. Ask yourself if this is a zero sum game, and am I doing it wrong? Because I should be looking at it as a positive sum game. And that's when you will thrive in that situation. Let's move on to the next one, which is the second scenario, which is called a repeated game, right? This again and again. Let me tell you, these are things that you will encounter daily in life. So, a repeated game is a game that you have to play repeatedly, as obviously. But what's the opposite of repeated game? It's like a short-lived game. It's called a one-shot game. Yeah. So, a one-shot game is a game wherein you play with another player just once. Okay, that happens. It's something that happens every day. You could be in an arcade, or you could be in a game show, and the game show is like $1,000. The first person to hit the buzzer gets it. You don't know this person. The person does not know you. You choose to press the buzzer. That's a one shot game. That's a short term gain, and that's a good decision to make, in my opinion. When you're not gonna meet the other person at all, there's really nothing to lose. In one shot games in life, one shot games only, you should focus on short term gains. That's the only time where you should focus on short term gains. Meaning, if you're in a situation where you know this situation is never going to come again, you're never going to see these people again, and the reward here looks very nice, and it's really upon you versus the other person. And the other person might also be thinking the same thing, right? You never know. It's always best to go for the short term gain. You hit that buzzer, you take the money, and you go back home with an extra $1,000 in hand. Versus you think, oh, this is a collaborative game, and the other person takes that decision and takes the extra dollars in hand. There could be a time where both of you think differently and move on to the next level, but the game is designed as such that there will be a time where the prize money is going to be so amusingly incentivizing that one of you will take that decision of hitting the buzzer, and it's never going to be collaborative. So in life, you will encounter a lot of situations where the game is actually a short or a one shot game, which means maximize on the short term gain and leave, just bounce, just go. That's the one shot game. Now, repeated games is a situation that you are living on everyday basis. Repeated games are basically games that you play with people that you see on everyday basis. And so what really matters here is the spirit of collaboration and the spirit of trust, and it is something that you really have to build over time. In a short term game, in a one shot game, the trust factor doesn't really matter, and it doesn't really come into play, or it really doesn't matter because you're never going to see that person ever again. But in a repeated game, which is what most of us are playing in life on everyday basis, a repeated game, your character or your reputation is what matters the most, right? So think of an example. Think of an office situation again. Okay, yeah, let's build up on the same office situation that we were talking about, where two people are fighting for the same competitive position. Somebody who is looking at this as a zero sum game will try to incentivize on a short term basis, in the sense that that person will behave, probably badmouth the other person, not support the other person, um really like not share resources, or act and behave in a bad manner, or gossip about this other person to other parties, just so that they can take the short term gain from this. But what you're essentially doing is that's a loss of reputation, and you've completely your situation, like completely. Because who's going to trust you now? I will not trust you if you're somebody who's bad mouthing me behind the doors, and if you're somebody who's not supporting me behind the doors, or if you're somebody who's not really working or talking in my favor behind the doors, then why should I ever listen to you? And you should always know that word gets around, and how your character is, it is always going to get around. Okay. Another thing that I think people should know is that you can only play a certain character till a certain time. There is always going to be a time when your mask is going to come off. It is only about time. It's what do you how do you frame the sentence? It's in a matter of time. So yeah, it's really important in life that whenever you're playing a repeated game, which is every day, you're doing this every day, you're doing this with the shopkeeper that you're dealing with. You go to a grocery store and it's the same shopkeeper that you're dealing with. It's a repeated game. You be nice to that person, be kind to that person, be generous, be genuine. There will be a time where you will benefit from this. It's a long game, but you will benefit for this from this because it's a repeated game. In office, if you play the short term game, or you're gonna lose it all, because you're going to completely throw away your entire reputation, and that's no good. That's no good. Versus somebody who's a team player, who supports the other person, right? Because that's what one should do. And also because this is a repeated game, your reputation, your everything matters, right? So you're always building the other person up, because you know it's going to come back around. You know it's going to come back around. Everything in life is going to come back around to you. It's karma. Everything is going to come back. What goes around comes back around. That's the mantra you should all be thinking about. So in this office situation, a person who acts in good faith, who is never bad mouthing the other person, or is always trying to build the other person up, and is saying nice things about the other person to people, never really talking them down. But this reflects your character. This really truly reflects your principles and your character and your value. And I really hope you are really that person and you're not really faking it, because if you're faking it, as I said, the mask is going to come off someday. So you better not be faking this. It should be something that comes out from the bottom of your heart. Did my camera die? Okay, I should be speeding this up, but I've been yapping for 30 minutes straight. This is the coordination game. Coordination game is also something that we're doing on everyday basis, and it's essentially, in my opinion, something that's keeping the world stagnant as F. Coordination game is a game where everybody does the same stupid thing, because it's easier to coordinate in a bad game than being miscoordinated. I really wanted to say that being miscoordinated is worse than being coordinated in a bad system. That's what the current society norm is, and that's the truth. And this is a very sad state to be in, but the coordination game is a game that we're all playing on daily basis, where everyone is benefiting if we're all doing the same thing. So think of it as this: if people follow their own mind and they're like, you know what, I'm going to drive on the left, now I'm going to drive on the right, that's going to mess up the entire situation. Why road and traffic rules work is that everybody is coordinated on the same plan or on the same idea. That's coordination game. Now, it could be as good as the traffic rules where everything is manageable, or it could be really as bad as following something super shitty. But just because everybody is doing it, you have to do it too, because that's the coordination game. And if you don't, if you are the only single person that's miscoordinated, you're gonna be severely injured from it, which is such a sad situation in my opinion. Because think about it in terms of tools. You know what, suppose in your company you're using a tool, but just because everybody is using the tool, you have to use it too. Even though you have a tool that's greater or better in your mind, you just have to coordinate because everybody else is fixated on this one thing. QWERTY, the keyboard format, for example, is one of the most senseless and the most unoptimized keyboard layouts out there. But because it is a norm in the entire world, you have to stick with it. If you are in a typing competition, they will give you a QWERTY keyboard. If you have practiced it on another keyboard of your own choice because it's better, that's not going to be in your favor. You're going to be completely clueless there, because the world is coordinated on a QWERTY format, and so the competition is going to happen on a QWERTY format, and so you're really playing with your backhand there, because everybody else has optimized and practiced on QWERTY and you have not, because you think that it's wrong. But the society is aligned to it, so you have to be aligned to it. This is one of the reasons why cultural shifts are so tough to happen. If you want to switch up the culture, if you want to change people's way of thinking, it is one of the hardest things that you can do, because everybody's playing the coordination game. So it doesn't really matter, the system is shitty, if everybody is coordinated, you have to be coordinated too. And there's always one or two rare occasions wherein people disrupt the market and disrupt the system. But that disruption also takes a group of people. So it takes a coordination amongst a group of people, and it's really tough to come by if just one person is trying to do it. So you have to have a certain community support with you if you really want a change to come by. But that's coordination game for you all. So understand when you're in a coordination game, and there's really nothing that you can do about it unless you build your own community and you disrupt the market. If not, then you can be sure of the fact that if you're the only single person that's not coordinated or miscoordinated, you're going to be playing at the backhand, and it's going to be bad for you because everybody else is coordinated, even if it's on a bad system. That's coordination game, and I think that's one of the most saddest things ever. We're at the last game because I think I'm yapping a lot, which is called the signaling game. Oh no, we're at the second last game, which is called the signaling game. This is really one of the shittiest things that exist on earth, where people function on signals, which is why people waste money on buying bullshit. The signaling game is essentially people buying exclusive and expensive stuff just to signal to the outer world that I am better than you. And this really impacts the society or the system because there's just a handful of people who can signal in this manner. And so those people, they stay above the average, or they're perceived to be above the average. Where while the truth must be that they're probably even below average as people or as humans, but just because they're in the signaling game and they can signal better with luxury items, luxury goods, or any other status symbol or a standard symbol, they will be perceived as better humans. That's the signaling game. There's really nothing that you can do about it. It's just a situation that you are in. You might be forced to also turn towards signaling when you're in this situation. It's just good to be informed about this. It's just good to be informed that there is a game called signaling game that exists, and most of the people are doing it or playing by it. Just know about it and know if you're being forced into signaling or if you really want to do it. It doesn't really have to be, now that I'm thinking, it doesn't really have to be luxury goods. It could be a lot of things. But a good key signaling vital, a positive one in my opinion, would be intelligence, right? So you have to play your cards right and get into the right signaling game. And then there is the last one, which is the tragedy of commons. Again, something that we're experiencing on daily basis. The tragedy of commons is we have this one shared resource and all of us could be judiciously using it, but nobody likes limits, nobody likes being restricted, and so everybody becomes super greedy and they misuse it and they overconsume, and the entire society struggles. This is also a super tough game. An example of this would be fishing. Fishing really comes across, and it's on peak on certain seasons. The fishermen, while today the fishermen are better, I think, and I hope, and so they do a coordinated fishing drive. But in olden times, people used to become greedy and they used to overfish. Now when you overfish, the population disruption happens. The population of the fish, they get disrupted. There are less schools to fish from, and so everybody struggles. The only way to get out of the tragedy of commons is clear communication and good leadership. You have to have a leading party that does not let this tragedy happen, and all the parties must be equally fined and heavily fined so that everybody stays coordinated. For everybody to be coordinated and for nobody to be overusing a resource, everybody should be fined and everybody should be on the same level. There should be heavy penalties for overconsumption. This is really something that a higher party or a leadership party can do. So yeah, that's the tragedy of commons. Now you've heard about a lot of games from me today, but the final, and if you've really stayed till 30 minutes, that's kudos to you, man. And I hope your walk or your exercise is going really well. Thank you so much for listening. But what I really want to highlight is if you've actually followed through Now you're going to look at every single situation in your life as as a type of game. You're in a situation, you're going to think, is it a zero sum situation or is it a positive sum situation? How should I act about this? Is this a repeated game or is this a one shot game that I'm playing? Am I really going to benefit from the short term gain that I'm looking at, or should I be playing the long term game? Is this a situation where everybody's forcing me to turn to the signaling game, or should I stay back and stay aloof and create my own signal and not follow everybody else's signal? Am I currently following or falling under the trap of the collective mindset because everybody is following a bad system? I think that it's a bad system, but is it a good time to really become the misfit, or should I play along and build a community and then make that community a misfit and then build up my own community?